back with lunch.
Excellent.
Hi everyone! Welcome to the Salted Dragon Tavern. Pull up a chair, grab a drink, and come listen to us or watch us talk about Soulcraft Ballarat. I want to apologise because I've been abandoned by everyone and I'm doing this all by myself!
Oh, look, to be fair, you're doing a good job so far.
Except that I, disappeared from screen for the briefest of moments and no one knew who I was. Oh, hang on, I gotta close the door because you can see it in the picture. It's probably gonna bang now, but anyway.
That's alright.
Yes, I do have this. I do. I have this always. This is the part I know quite well. I'm surprised how well I know this stuff. Alright, first and foremost, thank you, James, for coming along to talk about Ballarat LARP.
No worries.
But before we do go talk about, not Ballarat LARP, sorry, Ballarat LARP Quest was really important because we all know Ballarat LARP quite well. Or Soulcraft, I should say. So first we'll go through a few bits and pieces first, and then we'll start talking about your quest.
Sure.
So the very first thing is, of course, I always must go through, on Sunday nights, we have our D&D game, where we're a bunch of us LARPers, you may recognise some of us, especially me, run a D&D game in Old Althea. I call it Old Althea because we're now going into Blood and Gold. If you want to help support this particular channel and everything that we do and help us grow things and see some interesting things in the future that all unfortunately require money, two things you could do. You can either subscribe to the Twitch channel. It's a very small amount per month and it helps us out ever so little bit, paying the bills and expanding from here. If you don't want to do a subscription, which is a monthly thing, then you can also purchase bits in the channel, which is also up the top. And by doing that, have a look through how you make a cheer, and when you cheer with those bits, you essentially donate what you've purchased to that channel. And from that, it's a once-off little donation you basically give through Twitch. If you are looking at other LARPs, we have the list of all the LARPs that we know of that has been put together by Ashley Walker, so thank you very much for all that. And it's linked in, if you just scroll down in the Twitch channel, and you'll see the link there for the Excel spreadsheet that she's put together with all of the events in relation to LARP and reenactment and festivals and pretty much everything to plan your life around if you really need to. So thank you for that. And as always, thank you for all those who have come to watch and come to join us on these particular little things. If you have any particular issues with the audio, I think I've done it right this time as well. Make sure you say in chat if you've got anything you need to say. Last but not least, this is going to be a shorter session than normal because James has thankfully come all the way from Ballarat to discuss this. So we're going to make sure he gets out of here at a half decent time and not be getting home at past midnight.
It's always fun, especially after Swordcraft.
So yes, it'll be a bit of a shorter one. So instead of going into a break, we're most likely going to finish around about 9-ish, depending on questions that people have. So if you've got any particular questions about Ballarat Quest, then by all means, put them into the chat, and we will go and ask the questions where we can, depending on how many questions are sort of out there. Make him say it'll be funny tomorrow. Welcome, James. Thank you for coming all the way from Ballarat. It's much appreciated.
That's all right.
So we're going to talk about what your LARP is all about, I guess.
Yes.
Because we know we've equated it to being a Soulcraft event, equated it to a quest, essentially. But there's still so much more to it than what we're all used to, so we're going to go through that. So take us through, let's start with the basics. Let's start with when it all starts.
Sure. So Ballarat Quest is over a weekend in February. It's the last weekend in February. Our bump in is on the Friday afternoon from about 3 o'clock onwards. We encourage people to get there sort of about then. There'll be people there to guide you into car parking and things like that. And then you can take your camping stuff over to the campsite, basically. From then, we've got a little event, little RP thing happening on the Friday night for those who can make it. It isn't anything that's going to be detrimental if you turn up on the Saturday. It's just a little bit of fluff to pad out the event a little bit more. And also, who loves night events and night RP? It's great. So that's going to be a really cool thing that's happening there. Then basically all of Saturday is in character. So the RP is a little bit nice to help you get into character for the weekend. And then Sunday up until about 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon is in-game time as well, which gives then people the afternoon to pack up and head home.
All right, so in that case then, a couple of things I need to ask in this particular instance. So say I can't turn up Friday night and I'm turning up Saturday. What's the earliest I can turn up Saturday?
Look, anyone's going to be there, so if you want to turn up at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's fine.
What is the latest I can turn up?
We do have day tickets available, so if you want to come and still pitch a tent, you're more than welcome to come, but cars on site will be an issue, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
Basically, you're welcome to turn up at any point if you need to camp.
If I've purchased a ticket for the whole weekend, but I can only rock up at 2 a.m. on the Saturday morning, is that okay?
Oh, look, you might want to give us advance notice about that.
Okay, so you're saying if you have troubles getting there probably before midnight on the Friday night?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice, but if you're having troubles, just contact you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to arrange a rough time you're sort of coming in.
Yeah, just basically to let us know, really. If you just shoot a message to the Swordcraft Ballarat page, then someone will pick it up and we'll be able to work from it there.
Okay, so as we discussed a little bit before we went live on this particular channel, so when you say Saturday we go in character and you start playing your game, do we have a time? Do you perceive when you guys are running this, because you are running it, you are organising it, is there an end to activities at a certain point of time?
So there's not a hard cap or not a hard time when everything stops. Basically what's sort of planned at the moment is that our story runs during the day, and then when it gets to after dark, basically we're going to sound a bell essentially to say, this is the sort of end time of day. It's no longer safe for you to be going out causing havoc with each other.
Yep.
So you're still in character, but it's basically brought back to daggers, essentially.
Yeah, so it's all a bit more safer in the combat.
It's a bit safer.
Like
it's a little bit more focused on RP at that point.
Yep.
There may still be guild-related things happening, but I can't really say. It depends on who wants to still be doing it.
Yes, that's true. If you're doing a Rogues Guild, you should be doing it like 24/7 and don't stop. I don't. No, I don't. Okay, so based on the fact that we're in character again, we start on the Saturday and whatnot. Do you have a set time that you'll be having a big battle?
There are going to be about 3 battles over the course of the weekend. We have approximate times at the moment, but that'll depend a little bit on RP that happens. I mean, we don't have exact times. We'd like them to start about then, which gives us a little bit of flexibility in that regard, especially if some people might be running late on something.
Yep.
In particular, say there's a great big group doing a quest for a particular guild, for example.
That is very true. Yeah, you can't dictate the fight based on people not turning up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that this is going to be a much smaller event than say Melbourne Swordcraft can run with the number of people that they have. So we kind of need the people there for the fights and the battles. But there is going to be about 3 battles. We definitely have that planned in, and there's a huge area that we get to use for it. There is.
So. Are you trying to force the 3 battles, or is that what you've got allocated?
The battles are going to happen, not because we're going to force them, but because of story events that happen.
Oh, okay. But it's a case of if the story event happens and only a small group of people jump in, that's fine?
That'll be fine, but the way that it's planned and the way that it's structured is that just about everyone should be involved with them.
Yeah. You say that.
I say that. There's always going to be people, but having said that as well, the way that the story and the plot is being written, it's really open to anyone who wants to take part in it. As long as you are involving yourself with a guild, or know someone who is in one of the guilds and doing stuff for them, chances are you're probably involved.
That's true. We've talked about also this prior to having this particular conversation start up. This is essentially its own contained once-off event.
It is. So when we first had the dates in mind for the event, this was prior to Blood and Gold, and prior to the end of Althea. So we had this little bit of an interesting situation where we weren't sure whether or not we wanted to continue the Althean story one last time. We didn't want to step on toes with Blood and Gold because that's Melbourne's event. We're going to let them roll with that to start with. So what we ended up doing was creating a new setting, essentially. It's a once-off little enclosed story that people can bring whatever character that they want to. So it doesn't have to be a new Blood and Gold character, it doesn't have to be an old Althean character, but you're welcome to sort of bring something that you want to try along.
That's actually really good. So for this particular Ballarat quest, while it is only a once-off, it is a good excuse to basically bring a Blood and Gold character, or at least the costume and kit for your Blood and Gold character. Because what it will do for you in this particular case is that you are somewhat rushing to get your kit together for Blood and Gold. Get it done for Ballarat, come to Ballarat, wear it at Ballarat, realise all the mistakes that you've made with your costume, so now you've got time to actually fix it.
Yes, that's it. What we're telling you is rush faster.
Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much.
Look, bring it along, try it out, see what happens. It's and I think too, for some people who aren't very sure about how their new characters are going to play out, it's a really good opportunity just to try the character or try an alteration to the character that you want to play, see what happens.
Now, going forward, this is the first time you guys have done such a thing?
This is the first major event that's called Ballarat Quest. This isn't the first event that we've held.
Oh, there you go.
So
I stand correct.
We've had a tournament day last year. Wait, is it last year or the year before now? I can't remember.
Yeah. It blurs.
It blurs at the moment. There was a tournament day held at Cryle Castle where we had a story going around there, and we had a great big tournament on the field, and really cool day. We have had a Ballarat only one in the castle as well, and that's the Ballarat specific ones.
Yeah.
The other one that I've been involved with was the Althean Mercenaries Accord weekend events.
Yep.
So
you got some stuff under your belt for still running events to give you a bit of a heads up about what's going on here.
Yeah, we have a bit of like starter level stuff, but when we started talking to people with experience, there was a whole heap more.
One of the people I would have loved to have got to tonight, but because we had to kind of like rush this at the last moment because what I was originally going to plan for this particular Tuesday didn't pan out, I would have loved to have got either one or two of the people from the Ravenwood estate so we can talk about the estate and the location that we're having this at. So I'm gonna ask you these questions, and you're probably gonna answer secondhand information with what you do and do not know. So Ravenwood Estate. It's essentially, if I'm not mistaken, it's a property that's almost right next to Cryle Castle.
It's not quite next to Cryle Castle. It's probably about a 10-minute drive from there. It's out near Mount Buninyong.
Yep.
But the property itself is actually a stud farm.
Yes.
So it's got a huge amount of space that we have access to, and the landholder Renee has very kindly offered to move her horses into a smaller section of her property and let us use most of the field. So there is a huge amount of open space for us to use, especially for quests and fighting.
Yeah, very cool. If I know Renee, because I've had a bit of a chat with her, and I've started trying to push her towards, a few other people have pushed towards Renee, because I know she's been to Bickling and has caught the bug.
Yes, she has, definitely.
So the stud that she's put together, while it is a stud for her horses, she's also built basically the start of a tavern.
She has, and I think the tavern is nearly finished. By the time that we get there, I think all the finishing touches should be done. But I'm pretty sure she has much grander plans for the property.
Oh, yeah, she does.
If just being in their planning group is anything to go by, it'll be a really good property to look forward to.
So I think this is my assessment, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Because of the change into Blood and Gold, it has changed how this particular event works, but you've decided to go forward with it anyway, irrelevant to what's going on. And because it is this one self-contained event, one of the problems I've always seen when those particular type of events happen is that people don't have any consequences suffer to them because, well, it's just a one-off event. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, it is very much like that. And I think you'll probably find the stories quite interesting in that regard. One of the things that we've put in the actual story is that death is very much a part of this world, and there may not necessarily be any consequences during this particular period. So that does give people a little bit of flexibility and freedom, but that's not to say that you won't have sort of interim problems while you're at the event after seeing death.
So you guys have had a bit of, so let's call it a bit of fun,
Yep.
with creating an actual plot.
Mm-hmm.
So you got, it's, for lack of a better way of putting it, you kind of have an overarching plot for that particular weekend.
Yes. So the overall story is based around a harvest festival. So essentially what happens is that this particular town comes together once a year to celebrate the harvest, and as they celebrate, Death too likes to celebrate as well. So in the evenings prior to the actual harvest festival, they perform a ritual which brings Death closer to our world. And what happens then is that Death starts to interact with our world as well. So it makes for a very interesting story there that Death wanders amongst you, and interesting things can happen if you try and interact with him.
Are we allowed to know who's playing Death?
It is a local to Ballarat.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
And it is one of our warband leaders. He has very kindly put up his hand to do it, and I think he is going to have a good enough kit for it, and he's going to do a really good job of it.
Excellent work, excellent work. How many people do you expect from your local Ballarat group?
Oh, that's a gold question.
It is a gold question.
I mean, ideally, we would like to see 20 to 30 people from Ballarat, given that on an average night, for Wednesdays, we would see probably between 45 to 50 people. 30 is probably where a nice number would be, but at the end of the day, that's up to them. I just hope that they're able to come.
If, do you have, because you've talked about guilds before for this, you've obviously been setting this particular concept up as well.
Yes.
So have you designed the guilds similar to how I've pictured the guilds at Soulcraft, as in like, while they are part of the overall plot, they're also a lot lower as well for just those who don't want to be involved with the plot?
So in this particular case, in a normal quest event that would sort of be more relevant, with this particular story, the guilds play a much more integral part of the festival itself. So they're actually involved with what's going on.
Right, okay.
You are likely to see the people out and about, the guild leaders out and about. It's not like they're going to be just on the side if you want to do it. They're going to be a really big part of it.
Okay. Probably the other thing, it's about philosophy, I guess, when it comes to how people will treat this particular weekend. Some people will be happily come along to this particular weekend, not joining into any of the role playing, and just enjoying it a weekend, drinking with their friends, drinking at the tavern and stuff like that. And to me, it seems like this is actually a good event for it, because it doesn't have any relevance to long-term characters and stuff like that. Do you perceive any particular issues with that? Do you think that it's okay? A lot, because I have a feeling, and I could be wrong, a lot of people could just be coming on because they just love to laugh and like to do the role-playing and whatnot, but it seems because it is a once-off, it's like, I would love to support Ballarat and doing their laughs, but I'm happy just to come along, get into some fights, and just drink some ale and stuff like that at the tavern.
Look, I think with any of these sorts of events, that's always going to be some part of the populace.
Yep.
And that's fine. I mean, if you're coming to have a fight and socialize, you're adding to the atmosphere for everyone else. I don't see that as a detriment at all.
Cool.
In fact, I kind of hope more people come to do that as well.
Yeah, well, that's kind of it was kind of a bit of a leading question actually, because it's one of those things where a lot of LARPers, those who really do enjoy the LARP side of LARPing, judge an event based on what will it give me on a long-term thing, like is this a long-term plot that I can get involved with, but if it's only a once-off event, then what's this once-off event, I don't know, I might miss it and whatnot. But it's more of a case of what I'm trying to get to is those who are watching and listening and learning about what this is all about, that if you're not getting involved with the plot because you've missed something, support the ALARP anyway, support the Ballarat, and
Yeah.
specifically support the fact that there is a bit of land that is being developed specifically for LARPs to exist
Yes.
within Victoria, which is one of the biggest things. So
Yeah.
an organisation committee representing the Ballarat LARP Soulcraft Group, as well as land that they can utilise that will be built on. So if you're thinking about coming to this particular Ballarat quest, but you're not 100% sure about it, come anyway, support it. There'll be a whole heap of LARPers. And there's going to be a tavern. We're going to be drinking. There's going to be fights. It's going to feel like back in the old days of playing Soulcraft, realistically, even if it is only a once-off event.
Yes, and the biggest thing is that this particular event is just a stepping stone into
Yes.
the Blood and Gold era, because ideally, after this event, this is really just a way for us to get our foot in the door, learn from any mistakes that we make now, because once we get into Blood and Gold, that story is going to continue.
Yes.
And
yeah, exactly.
it'll be relevant to our own little area. So I don't know if many people in Melbourne realise that each of the chapters have their own little area inside
In that map that they put together.
inside the Board Prince region. The Ballarat chapter is located in the town of Kriegstore. So that's in the very, well, I guess you could call it southeastern region. Probably one of the closest towns down near the Badlands.
Yeah. So hopefully we get this bleed in happening between both events.
Yeah.
Because that'd be really good to see happen in the future. Like, you know, Soulcraft happens, what happens to Soulcraft affects Ballarat, then what happens to Ballarat affects so on and so forth. Because you,
well, I mean, to a much lesser extent.
To a much lesser extent. But you still, because we're talking about trade and borderlands, we're all in the borderlands, just in a different town of the borderlands when it all kicks in. But it gives people attachment to some interesting stories, knowing that there is another borderlands town which does represent another one of the LARP groups within Australia. And the same concept can happen. Like, I know Gippsland has one as well. They have their own little village and stuff like that. So if they manage to get bigger one day, they may do the exact same thing, have their own little LARP based
and
on
I think,
the same
and I
place.
really do think that really opens up a big opportunity, role-play wise, to be able to go to one of those chapters and say, I went to Kriegstore and I did this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That adds far more to it than I think what Althea did, because you could just write, oh yes, I went to the other side of the world. That's nice.
Yeah.
In Blood and Gold, you can actually say, I visited this town and I did this thing, and this is what I was given as a result of that. So I think that just,
Okay, so we have a really big problem at this present moment in time, not related to the LARP so much, is that people usually ask questions in the chat. No one's asked any particular questions.
I'm just hearing that I'm doing a good job of explaining. I hope that's the case.
I hope that's the case, yeah. Please, if you are watching this, please, by all means, ask us any questions of anything we have missed. Realistically, it is quite cut and dry. It's actually really simplistic.
Yeah, I mean, overall, a day and a half event.
We have a question.
Oh, excellent, we have a question. A day and a half event's not long.
Yes.
We've learned very much from the tournament day that it's very difficult to run a complex and integral story in the space of 8 hours.
Yes.
So we've learned from that and narrowed it down to a point that what we did at the tournament day, we've done over a day and a half, which is a lot easier for people to get their heads around in terms of things that are happening on the days.
So the very first question is, what guilds?
Ah, excellent. I'm glad someone's going to ask this.
I'm gonna rephrase that question. What public guilds?
Oh,
If there's
yes.
any hidden ones that people should know about, let's not mention those ones. Let's
well,
keep
in
them.
that case, there's 2 guilds.
You heard it. 2 guilds.
So we do have what is called the Arts Guild, and we have the Adventurers Guild. So I don't know how many people remember the Adventurers Guild that was run a few quests ago now at Mafeking. Basically, it was a place that people who go to either, if you wanted to run your own quest, for example, your own little mini plotline, and you wanted a reward to be posted at the Adventurers Guild, what you would do is you'd go to the guild, you'd say, I want to run this quest, can you put it on your board? Great. We'll have a board there, there'll be quests running through the event anyway. but it's a place that people can come to get a little bit of extra.
I tell you what, when I come to this event, I'm gonna see how badly the adventurer person who's running that particular one goes.
Ah, well, that'll be.
You guys probably have a bit more luck because you'll have a smaller group to play with, which makes the Adventurers Guild sort of work. All right, so I will not distract. So the Arts Guild, what's the Arts Guild?
Yes, so the Arts Guild was a really interesting one because, as you know, in the main Swordcraft, you've got things like the Mages Guild, you've got the Bards Guild, essentially, all those sorts of types. And we don't have enough people to run them all individually.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've created the Arts Guild. And this is basically schools of art, whether it be song, dance, magic, so on and so forth.
Yep.
They all get put into one guild called the Arts Guild. And we have a very nice lady from Melbourne Swordcraft who we asked and she very kindly accepted, who is going to be running that for us.
Who's that?
That's Hannah Jade.
Doesn't surprise me.
Look,
doesn't surprise me at all.
We were throwing names around, and as soon as Hannah's came up, everyone was just like, "That suits Hannah. That's something," and she was very kind to accept that. So she'll be taking part that role, and I think she'll do a really good job of it. In fact, I think she's really keen for it as well.
Yeah, cool. Is there an underworld? Yeah. It better be run well.
I think it will be. It's okay. We've also got another warband leader who's performing an NPC role at this quest to perform various duties.
All right, so that's the guilds, the two guilds.
Yes, the two guilds. But there is actually one more major NPC.
Yeah.
So, in addition to the guilds, we've also got a town mayor.
Okay, cool.
So he is going to be a very prominent figure who's going to be out and about a bit, I think, dealing with all of the warbands and things like that. Maybe he wants you to do something for him. But he'll be walking around as well.
Okay, so one of the next questions that have been asked is there any particular factions or anything like that?
So one of the biggest things and one of the biggest problems that we faced initially was the question of factions. What we've decided to do is not do factions per se. What is more likely to happen is that you're going to be joining the guilds. And when it comes time for the battles in the particular stories, most of that will be balanced out as best we can. Hopefully we're doing 50-50s.
Yep.
That'd be great. But story-wise, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a set of quote-unquote NPC fighters who say the town gets attacked by orcs, for example.
Yep.
One side's probably going to be the orcs, one side's probably going to be what's left of the town, but we're going to try and switch that out, and that's partly the job of the mayor as well, is to get different groups involved with different things.
Yep.
And one of the really cool things is that the results of the battles will change the following battle.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
So depending on what happens in the first battle...
So we're talking more about joining an ideal for the fight itself more than a faction.
Yeah.
It's not conceived that it's big enough for factions to be a mechanic that would work.
Not at this point, no. I mean, that's a thing that we'd like in the future. Probably the first idea that was thrown around is that wouldn't it be cool if we pitted the guilds against each other? But that very quickly we discovered that if all the mages were set against all of the fighters, probably the fighters would win. Yes. Just because of mechanics.
Yes. So we did have a Friday night about it and the mages did win. But,
it would have been a very good, really cool thing to see happen, but I think just mechanic-wise it wasn't going to work. So we opted for this idea instead.
Yeah, that's probably
which hopefully will balance out quite nicely. But, after the first battle, we'll see how that goes, and then we can just change that as we need to.
All right, someone's asked a really good question, actually, which is... because of this particular question, it's all based on how you guys are running it. Because while you are Swordcraft, in name.
Mm-hmm.
Your organisation does sit separately to the Swordcraft itself. So the question is, no glass rule?
Yes. That's a no-brainer for us.
Yep.
There's a number of things that we're pulling across from Swordcraft Quest that we're basically using for ours, and no glass is one of them.
Drinks policy?
We have to confirm that. Landholder has said that we can, but we need to double check local government regulations.
Yeah.
Because it is very different for each local area. Each
based on the
council.
council.
Yeah, each council is very different. So the advice that we've gotten from 2 other chapters doesn't necessarily ring true for us. The only people who can answer that for us at the moment is the state government.
Yep.
Which we are working on to contact and get that answer. That'll actually be one of the updates that we post out via the event fairly soon, hopefully.
Yeah, for the purposes of the glass, treat it the same way we do Swordcraft. So small potion vials, glass, not a problem. It's just the beer bottles and those big glass tankards.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue, guys. That's basically what it really is.
And look, preference is that you go to Kmart and they've got plastic versions of those little vials.
Yes, they do.
Those are significantly better, and the reason for the no glass rule too is because it's a stud farm. Any glass on the ground could injure the horses.
Yes, that's a very good point.
So that's a very important thing that we have to abide by.
Basically, do everyone a favor and just stop using glass.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
You can get the little potion vials, Kmart, they're like $3.50, $4. I think Cheap as Chips have them occasionally as well in plastic. So...
one other thing I would probably like to apologise for is that the logistics of bringing a shisha den to a weekend like this is not plausible at this present moment of time. Part of the reason for that is because Swordcraft do supply us a tent for us to run the shisha den, and we supply everything else that goes inside it. So we can't do a tent and that thing at the same time. So hopefully, again, it's about support the community, support the LARP and whatnot. The more tickets these people get, the more people that come along to this, the more money that goes into their system, which means it's A, a show of faith, B, money into their system, which they can look at actually expansions and other options and so on and so forth going forward.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big thing. We've got all these plans that we would love to do, but we're always going to be limited by budget. Which is like the same for any event, really. Swordcraft being a much bigger event, they get a much bigger budget to work with. So what we're hoping to do at this point is provide enough of an event that people like it to come back. And that way, for future events, once we actually get into Blood and Gold, we can start to actually include more tents.
Now, I do have an ego. I'll admit that thoroughly. I run this fantastic Underworld Rogues Guild, right? Doesn't mean it's the only one that can exist, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys bring to the table. A, because I don't have to do anything. that's the best kind of work. That is the best kind of it. Like, I could potentially run a good one, or I've matured, I think, over time, is that mine, I think, is good. It doesn't mean it's the best one around, or that others are just as good, but in a completely different way. So I know I run mine my way. I think mine works really well for 500 Swordcraft players. So I'd be interesting to see how you guys get the guilds. Oh shit, we're supposed to be secret about this. 2 guilds, yeah, 2 guilds.
It's the 2 guilds, yes.
2 guilds going.
Look, I think the person running it has got some really good ideas for it. And I think there's also one more idea that I would love to see running in it, but I don't see the viability in a once-off event. Once we get into the Blood and Gold events, this particular one would be a multi-quest thing. So it certainly wouldn't be just a once-off quest that's run at this one. This one would be able to carry over. But obviously I don't know the intricacies of not all of the guilds. So I guess for those who are interested, you'll just have to come and find out exactly what's on offer.
Yes, for the 2 guilds.
Look, you might just need to go to the exchange or something like that.
Yes. That's actually a very good question of me. Are we using Althean coins? Are we using your own coins?
So we are not using Althean coins. In fact, we have our own coins. Yes, these are. We do already have the coins. They are metal coins.
Nice.
So one of the biggest things that we did with the tournament day was we used these plastic gold pirate coins because they were like $3 for a packet, and we could just get enough of them to give 3 each to everyone. This time we do actually have proper coins, which will be really good, and they feel really, really nice too.
Well, in that case, knowing you got coins is really interesting. So, because of all of the changes, this is something you probably might have decided this already. You may need to talk about this later on. So I'll ask this question anyway for the purposes of, if you haven't got an answer for it, then at least you know to give yourselves an answer for it at some point in the future. When you go into Blood and Gold Ballarat, will you go with a different set of coins?
So the coins that we have currently, we can't reorder, and there is a very good reason for that.
There you go.
Which you will find out as soon as you see the coins. That should be obvious. But going forward, we will still have Ballarat-specific coins. They're going to be Swordcraft. On one side, it says Swordcraft Ballarat Quest.
Yes.
So the coins are staying. In fact, hopefully after this event, we'll be able to order silvers. Because we're just running with coppers for now, because we don't expect people to walk away with 30 silver.
Okay, so because we're still on the coins topic, one of the decisions that we made in Assaultcraft many, many moons ago was to, it was serendipity that this came about, but in our books it worked, but again it might be because we had 500, 600, 700 people that it worked better. Originally we gave coins to everyone at the start of the quest, and then let them do whatever they do.
Yes.
Then we changed the methodology to actually stop doing that and issue them through quests, essentially. Do jobs, get coins. While we had a lot of people bitch and complain about it leading up to that particular quest, it worked extraordinarily well. Because a lot of people because they were giving them a fair amount of time about what was going on, so people, a lot of people who did complained, it happens. But those who saw an opportunity really did. And I saw one of the best quests for people actually just creating stuff for the purpose of selling to get in-game coins. So what is your methodology for how you're going to get coins in this game?
So, as I said earlier, there's the guilds that are running in town. They have quests on offer all the time. So anytime you want to do something for currency, that's the place to go. The Adventurers Guild is another way of getting that circulating by people being able to come in, lodge their own quests, if they wanted to, you know, pay the Adventurers Guild for that service. But we are going to be issuing people coins at the start, or particularly when they're coming into the event, visiting the exchange, for example. The reason being for that is that we don't want people to enter the event, a brand new event that's never had coins before, and say, you have nothing. We want to give them a little bit of an injection, but not enough to say, oh yeah, I'm just going to keep all of that. So
we're talking a couple of copper here.
Basically, yes.
Just something to sort of get them going, to
get you going.
Spend a nail at a tavern or something like that.
Exactly. And one of the things too is that we want to support the people who are doing those crafts. So if you've got merchants who are coming around selling things for in-character copper, we want people to be able to, you know, get one of those at this event, for example. If someone's doing it, please someone come and do that. That would be great. That gets back into the Harvest Festival.
Yes, there's a lot of collectors out there, so it'll happen.
Yes, it'll probably happen. Yeah, I think the other thing is that we're looking into what options we have with the tavern, and this depends on budget and things like that. One of the things, and I think this is mainly when it comes to, say, Red Hounded, actual quest, one of the biggest things we've seen is people like to spend copper on drinks that are non-alcoholic. So one of the things that I want to explore at this quest is how well that functions. So whether or not that's done through the event, or whether or not I just do that sort of separately, would be a really good way of seeing how it functions. Because I think one of the biggest bits of feedback was that people love to do that, but they like their variety. So I think it comes down to variety when it comes to people spending their coppers. which is going to be always the problem, I think.
Yeah.
Is getting enough variety that people want to keep trading things. And
Yeah. And a lot of the times you also you have to rely on the community to sort of help out in that particular one. So if you're coming to any of these events like Ballarat or even just Soulcraft and whatnot, while we can produce certain amounts of stuff for you to purchase, we find that a lot of it is actually more worthwhile when it's the actual players bringing something to the game themselves.
Yeah, especially when you have merchant characters, for example. I know that there is a very prominent merchant who is a player who typically comes to most quests, Voldemar. He brings an assortment of things for you to sell, and then on top of that you've got people who do wandering around with carts and things like that. Those really are the people who bring that sort of trade atmosphere to the quest. It's not something that we can really provide. It's just too much, it's too much for us to be able to do. So when these people bring their carts and they bring their little trinkets, that's great because you just see them walking around and you see people stopping at the carts and just interacting. And I think that sort of leads into one thing that I do want to cover is the premise of the Harvest Festival. It's not just the celebration of the harvest. We want to get the merchants themselves involved. I think at this point in time, we're looking at twice during the event. We're going to try and have a sort of merchant hour, so to speak, where we encourage anyone who's got in-character crafts or whatever who want to trade, come to the town square.
Create essentially a market for a bit.
Create a market. That's what we're looking for. Because that would really give us that feel of a harvest festival.
It's actually very important we got that out there because it gives those who are coming along, because, all right, okay, cool, let's build a market. Let's build a market because to create that awesome, cool market atmosphere with a whole heap of different people selling wares and people sort of like, you know, trying to get you to buy their shit and whatnot and all those noises, you know, butchers doing all their 99 for a bag of meat and whatnot. That's the players. The players need to come and help us do that. So the fact that you are running let's call them mini events in the LARP itself, specifically designed for a market to exist.
And honestly, if someone wants to be like trying to outspook someone else, that would be great.
That would be absolutely fantastic. That's good. That's actually really good to know. So if you are coming along and you have not really much of an idea of what you do or do not want to do, bring something to sell. Merchant. Bring a merchant of some particular type. Doesn't matter what it is. Sell apples, sell oranges.
Honestly, look, if we had fruit vendors, I'm sure people would probably want it because it's something that they can just buy and eat.
I already now thought of the character I'm bringing for this, so I might be preaching a religion, televangelist style. Alright, so one of the questions I got asked a little bit later, which was already answered in chat, but I know the chat disappears after a few weeks, so if anyone wants to watch this after that, they will not know what this question is all about. So this question is really important. It's about your character. So people are used to bringing their character with their warband.
Yes.
So in this particular case, by the sounds of things, it's not that.
Look, we aren't outlawing warbands. That's not a thing that we're doing. You are more than welcome to turn up with your warband. If you don't have a warband to attend with, then you can come along as well. The way we're doing arrangements of camping is very loose. What we're really going to be doing is setting up streets more than anything. And depending on the number of registrations we get for warbands, those particular warbands might get sort of more larger allocated spaces. But if you've got friends that you want to camp with, we're not going to tell you that you can't camp next to them. So we're going to be fairly loose in that regard. So that gives you plenty of opportunity to bring whatever character or just turn up, really.
Someone's actually just asked a really good question, actually. So I'm going to ask an extra one on top of what they've asked, because they've asked food handling requirements. Food handling requirements are pretty much the same across the state. So you need a food handler certificate to run a store.
Yes.
So the question I want to ask on top of that, do you have any people lined up as a food vendor at the event?
Currently, I don't think we have someone who's doing food.
Okay.
I believe the rules around pre-packaged things and open things are a little bit different. But definitely check state government, but also it would be worth checking the Ballarat City Council as well. Because the state and local government
Councils work differently.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
But we are absolutely within Ballarat City Council. Some people thought we might have been within Moorabool. We are not. They have, and we're actually quite lucky with that regard because there are two different requirements for events in the two different.
So let's go with this. Currently, there are no food vendors. So put that into your mind when you're coming to this event for the purposes of what food you want to bring and cook for yourself. It's not that far away from Ballarat, so you can just Uber Eats or some shit like that.
Yeah, look, it's 20 minutes from the CBD, you're probably nearly within Domino's distance.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Domino's was suddenly, why is there 300 pizzas going out to this particular property? They're probably we'll give them a heads up, I think. We need to give Domino's a heads up. Yeah. However, in saying that, there are people out there in the community who do cook food at Soulcraft Quest, and they may want to be coming to this. So if they're looking at potentially doing another food stall of some type, contact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shoot the Ballarat Swordcraft or the Swordcraft Ballarat page a message. We have a merchant form that I think was put in the event asking for merchants who are interested.
Yep.
All you do is just fill that out so that we've got some basic contact details and things like that. As a food vendor, like if you're cooking food and things like that, you've got your food handling certificates and things like that anyway.
I'm like thinking, Bratwurst guys, the Ravenna guys. There's a few others and whatnot who would probably small little group, but you know they might like come along and
and the big thing with merchants at this quest is that there's no differentiation to us between players and merchants. So if you are looking to do a merchant stall or anything like that, what we've said to people is that you buy your player ticket as normal, and you're welcome to set up your stall. It's up to you what hours you want to man the stall and what hours they're open.
See, this is a good opportunity because you've mentioned that you're going to have two events essentially that represent a market time.
Yes.
For an hour. So if you're a vendor with sells actual proper equipment and stuff like that, you can bring a light supply of some of your more common stuff that you're going to sell and just sell it for that hour.
Yeah.
Add it to the market, create that market space and advertise your market space.
Yep.
Get a lot of fun with this. It's about getting people along, knowing that there's two set time periods, which we'll probably need to find out sort of roughly when those
there'll be a player's guide that gets put out and it'll have those times in it.
Good question, actually. Yeah, player's guide. The player's guide should have a lot of your parking needs, all that type of stuff that goes with it. Location,
so what we're going to have is location, time. We're going to have a map out as well. One of our volunteers is doing that in Ballarat, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so. And any other information that's really important to the event, things like... because it'll be during sort of fire season, there'll be a sort of an evacuation sort of plan to say, this is your marshalling point.
That's actually a very good point. I didn't think about that.
And it's one of the things that, probably one of the very first things that we thought of was all the fire-related issues, which we'll get to. But the Player's Guide itself will have a lot of that information in there. We want to try and get it as broad and as comprehensive as we can, but chances are, look, we're probably going to miss something. If we have... shoot us a message. We can answer it. It's easy.
So based on that particular concept, because it is in February still, it's the tail end of summer, people are going to be prepared that it might be a total fire ban weekend. Yes.
And that's something that we're not going to know probably until a few days before the event.
Which now brings me up to the next question I just thought of, because it's really important. With that particular notion in mind, should people bring their own wood?
So at the moment, I would probably suggest that you do. Requirements for the fire drums and the fire pits and things like that basically are state regulation. They have to be, the 30 centimeters off the ground. I believe what's going to happen too is that there might be gravel to be placed underneath where the fires are going to go. And I think as well...
Well, it's kind of like the same thing as a glass, right? So two things when it comes to if you're bringing your group of people and you want to bring a fire, first things, it might be a total fire ban day, so you might bring your fire and not be able to use it. So first, put that in your mind.
Yep.
Second thing is that it is still someone's property. It is still a horse stud. So consider that when you're putting your fire in the ground, what's underneath it and what you could potentially be destroying and leaving behind for the horses to trip up on or hurt themselves on.
Yes.
Put that into your mind.
And more specifically, if it's something like little bits of metal or something that you would normally throw into a fire that gets into an ash pile, that doesn't go in there. You put it in a bin.
Okay. So as I said, this should be in the player's guide, just to make sure it's in the player's guide, but if you're hearing it first, make sure you understand that if you want a fire, you bring a barrel for it. You bring your fire, you bring all the fire bits and pieces you need for it. They are not being supplied. And while some people I know will bitch about that because they want everything handed to them on a silver platter, be aware, support the group, and be aware that because it's the last weekend of summer, essentially, that it might be a total fire ban and you might waste your time bringing all this stuff.
Yes, on the other hand, it could be pouring rain for all we know.
Right.
It is Ballarat.
It could be windy. I think it's probably a very good thing. It is Ballarat. I've got aunts and uncles that live up there, and I've been to Ballarat a few times in the past. It still gets cold.
It does. Yes, even during summer it can get cold.
Yes, so it could be a case of we have a total fire ban weekend, yet it's still a cold during the night. So keep that in mind as well. So make sure you bring extra blankets just in case.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we've got like 10 minutes to go to 9 o'clock. We're finishing off at 9 o'clock just so you can get home at a decent time. I've got no more questions coming up so far.
Okay.
The information... rubbish collection.
Yes, so my understanding at the moment is that there will be some bins available on the site. We will confirm exactly what's happening, bin and waste related, closer to the event. Again, it'll be in the player's guide.
Yeah, a lot of rubbish collection I think is also based on ticket sales too. So like if you suddenly have 200 tickets all of a sudden.
Yeah, if we have 200 tickets, we're probably going to look at getting something in that people can put waste in. It is only 2 nights. At most, I can't imagine there would be 10 bags of waste per campsite. I wouldn't put it past it, but look, I would say be reasonable in your expectation. There will be some bins available, but again, it depends on the size of the event as to whether or not we can provide that.
Again, as a LARPer, if you've been doing this long enough, and if you're new to this as well, bring help. Bring garbage bags. Bring receptacles to put these garbage bags in so that you can put all of your rubbish away. Recycle where you can. It's not that necessary, but if you can. But now I'm leading on to the next question. Toilets and showers.
Yes, so there are going to be toilets at the event. At this point, we are not likely to have showers.
Okay, so it's a non-showered weekend and it's going to be the end of summer. Be prepared.
Deodorant. That's not... Look,
and make sure you role play a foot away from everyone else.
Look, yeah, at the end of the day, it's due to the numbers. And Swordcraft get away with being able to get showers in because they've got 500 to 700 people coming to their events.
And we're doing it over a week.
And you're doing it over a week. So there's a big difference between that and 1 to 2 nights.
Yeah. Look, to me, I've been to 2 Italian LARPs. On one, I was locked in an underground mine for a whole weekend with no bathroom at all. Like, I basically had to wash hands and brush teeth and pouring out cups of water and shit like that. So, whatever. And then I got locked in an underground bunker where it was weird temperatures and dewy and weird and no showers again and really bad. But, no worries. I've done it.
Well, I can tell you that the numbers that we're aiming for toilet-wise is we're doing 1 per 50 people with a minimum of 2. So regardless if there's 40 people, 60 people, we're going to have 2 toilets. If we get sort of to the 100 mark, then, which would be great, we'll get the next set. And we've got the 2 locations for that already. Basically, it's going to be at both ends of the whole camp area in town.
Okay. Cool.
And we're kind of hoping that the locations we've got planned for them, they're not directly in sort of line of sight of most things. So they're sort of going to be a bit of out of character. So in that regards, I know that some people definitely like to do shankings at the toilets. I would discourage that because they're going to be essentially an out of character area. That's the way that we're trying to separate them.
Are you going to do something like what they did at Storecraft with the last one, where they actually had separate receptacles for guys to pee in, essentially urinals?
Not at the moment, no. Just because of the way that pricing for the toilets themselves work.
They're actually not that cheap, people.
Yeah.
Especially if you want good quality ones.
That's it. So, not at this point, but possibly in the future if we got enough people coming to our events.
So here you go, folks. Remember, there's no showers and only portaloos, so make sure you bring your baby wipes and everything else you need to survive a couple of days without modern necessities.
And keep in mind that for those people who don't like the idea of camping overnight, there are Saturday-only tickets.
Yep.
And probably a really big thing to point out about that is we didn't offer a day ticket for the second day because it's only about a half a day.
Yeah.
We didn't want to feel like people got less value buying a Sunday ticket than the Saturday ticket itself. Most of the story happens.
That's a very good question. So when you buy the Saturday ticket, it's only for Saturday, you essentially got to leave the site.
Yes, you will.
Okay,
yeah.
So an assumption here, and you probably need to go, we didn't think about that, we probably should do that. Saturday tickets will have a different armband, I assume?
Yes.
And then you're going to have to make sure you go around the police and keep these people off site by a certain time.
Yes. Like, there are going to be marshals walking around doing things like that anyway. But for the most part, people, I hope, should be responsible enough to do that. Because if we catch you, that's a big problem on you.
Okay. So let's do a quick summary at the end of all this.
Sure.
Okay. Bring your own fire pit. Bring your own. Consider the environment that the fire pit's going to be in and where the fire will be dumped. Actually, that's a very good question. If we do have fire pits and we do have fires,
there will be somewhere to put ash.
Thank you.
We got that one sorted.
Awesome. All right. So yes, bring your fires. Bring your fire pits of your own because they will not be supplied for you. You need to pass some sort of regulation, so half a drum that's like 30 centimeters off the ground or something like that will do the trick. Probably even half a drum will do the trick, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it still has to be off the ground far enough not to light any sort of fires.
It has to be. All right, so bring fire drum if you want to fire. Bring your own wood if you want to fire, and be prepared that it might be a total fire ban weekend. Also be prepared that even if it is a total fire ban weekend and you can't have a fire, it still will be cold at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. 200 ticket limit, I think you've said?
Yeah, so there's 200 full event tickets.
Okay, so a bit more
and then
Saturdays.
we've got the 50 Saturday-only tickets.
Right, cool. Very, very cool. All right. So summary, we've got the fires. Essentially bring your own food. We don't have any food vendors at this particular stage, but we also are down the road from Domino's and we'll get you guys
Look, I'm perfectly sure that someone is going to do a Domino's run at some point.
Sure
so that could be a thing that's going to happen.
It's a once-off event. It will not carry over into any of the following events. However, it does have a self-contained plot, overarching plot, and some other bits and pieces. There is 2 somewhat scheduled marketing events, which sounds really businessy when I say it that way. So 2 markets. So because I'd like to emphasize the market concept a bit more so people can actually bring something along, set up a fold-out table, some shit like that.
Even if it's just like a picnic rug that you've sat on and you've got some stuff out.
Let's really emphasize having, even just for that, like 1 hour and stuff like that, twice during the Saturday. And yeah, let's make these really cool markets happen, I reckon.
Yeah. I think it'll be a really nice sort of atmosphere.
Back your cars up into the thing and open up the back boots. No, I'm just kidding. Back up your carts.
Back up the carts. He forgot the T. It's fine.
No showers. Minimalistic in the toiletries, in toilets, portaloos, whatever you want to call them. So bring your wipes. Be hardcore. Come on, just do it. End of summer. It's going to be a bit of a drain. No glass. Even people have considered wanting to bring glass for their small vials and whatnot. Basically, aim for no glass would be the best.
Yeah, that would be the best. One of the other really probably big things which we didn't cover yet is water.
Sorry, good point.
Now, it is the end of summer, so it is still likely to be quite warm. From my understanding at this point, there will be some water available, but please, 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 make sure you bring enough water to hydrate yourself for the weekend. Get yourself 5-10 litres of water. If you know someone who's got one of those jerry cans or something like that from Aussie Disposal, something like that, fill it up with water because it will not go astray for that weekend.
Yeah, definitely hydrate. Definitely hydrate. All right. You can bring your Blood and Gold characters.
Yep.
You can bring your old Althean characters. You can bring yourself. You can bring your warband. It is only a once-off event, and none of the stuff you do will carry over. Don't treat it like that, though. Actually, treat it like it's part of a bigger world. Just because it's like no consequences because I do all this shit, stop doing that.
If you do keep going to death, well, I don't know. I'm not responsible for what he does.
Yeah. Is it Alex?
No.
Oh, damn.
No.
If I've got anything else, okay. So we've gone through the fire pits to make sure we've got that as our backup. We've gone through the water, gone through the toilets, gone through no showers.
Reminder, bump in is from about 3 o'clock on the Friday, which is the 22nd.
And finishes roughly about midnight, unless you've made prior arrangements.
Unless you've made prior arrangements. And then the event runs through until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday.
Saturday tickets are only for Saturday, so if you have a Saturday ticket, you will be kicked off Saturday evening at some point.
Yes.
And the refs will go around and get off my land! Remember, we are in someone's horse stud, so always pay attention to that one, about what you leave behind and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think really the biggest rule for the horse stud farm is that there are going to be some white fences, which denote the edge of the actual landowner's property, like her house and things like that. That is an absolute no-go zone. Again, it'll be in the player's guide. No-go zone. If you're found in there, you'll be booted out.
This is why I like you people, because you ask the questions I forget to ask. Medical.
Yes. So depending on the number of people, we do have a dedicated MO for the event with a couple of extra first aid certified people who are going to be on site. With a large enough number of people, we will be getting event medical in.
Excellent.
That comes down to numbers. The more people we get, the nicer things we can have.
Yeah, exactly.
And besides, the guys from Event Medical are keen.
Yeah.
So the more people that turn up, we can get these guys and they can have more fun.
Excellent work. All right. Hopefully we've given you a lot of information about Ballarat LARP itself. As I said, we've made this a little bit shorter so I can get him back home to Ballarat because he's come out all the way from there, which is a good hour and a half, if not 2 hours drive because of traffic. Luckily on the way home it shouldn't be as long. So I'd like to say thank you, Jen, for coming along and giving us all a rundown of what we expect for Ballarat LARP. Hopefully we can get 200 people coming along.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
It would make a really amazing event.
I think it'll be worthwhile. I think people really do need to come to this event, even just for see the birth of a property that's going to be turned into a LARP property. Because the person who owns this property is obsessed. Yeah, Renee, I'm pointing you out. And yeah, it'll be really good. Like, starting of a tavern is just the start of something that's going to be quite amazing. If you support this particular LARP and this event, and we sell out all 200 tickets within a couple of weeks, we're going to see some really good things come out of this. Okay.
I think so.
All right, that's all for the purposes of the Ballarat LARP. So I'm going to do one more little sort of end of the stream type thing, and that's next week. Next week, for all those who are watching, I am going to get a couple of people come along from old school LARPs, some old friends of mine, and we're going to build online a LARP. It's going to be
sounds like fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So the idea is what we're going to do is that we are going to come here with no preconceptions about what we're going to do, and we're going to, with the interaction of all of those people who are in the chat, make a LARP. We have no idea how we're going to do it. We're not sure what we're going to do, and we're going to go through discussion points about why and why not particular things may or may not exist.
Have you got any ideas about settings or themes?
That's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the players. I'm going to say, these are the settings we're considering, and then basically go people say, tell me your setting. And then we'll just go, all right, we're going to go with that. Or we might get people to say, tell us, give us a setting, we'll suddenly come up with 50 different settings and whatnot. We just go, hey, I like that one, let's do that one, because we've never done that one before. We are creating a fantasy LARP, essentially. But it's not a fantasy LARP, it's a fantasy version, it's a fantasy LARP that could be a fantasy LARP. Or it could be a sci-fi LARP, or it could be, like we'll go through about, decisions about what type of weaponry system and whatnot we're going to make, if we even need a weapon system, because there are LARPs out there that don't use combat systems at all.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And yeah, we're going to have a bit of fun. I reckon next week it'll be a lot of fun for people to come along and get a good insight about what it is like to create things and the things you have to consider when putting a LARP together, if you've ever considered running a LARP. The other things is, again, subscriptions, bit cheers, support this particular channel. This costs money. And if the more money we can get our hands on and the more subscriptions we can get and the more bit cheers we get, the little bits of extra money that come through, help us do bigger things. Because I got a lot of ideas that are only hampered by money. We are starting up a competition soon for these channels. Now, we are mostly focusing on the Dungeons & Dragons channel on the Sunday nights for this competition. However, if it pulls out quite well, it'll also incorporate LARP equipment as well as part of it. So what we're doing is that we haven't got the full details yet because we're still hashing that one out. But starting in February, hopefully, if we pull our asses out, pull our thumbs out of our asses and done stuff, the idea is that we have a hamper, and as particular milestones are met within the channels, then we add stuff to that hamper. And because it starts off as a D&D hamper, it'll be like a player's handbook to start off with, because I've got one spare going. Add a Dungeon Master's Guide, add bits and pieces, so on and so forth. So it'll be based on how many subscriptions we get into the channel, how many people do bit cheers and followers and viewers and all that type of stuff to sort of chuck stuff in. And if you're viewing these things and actively participating in the viewing of this channel while we're doing this live, that's how you earn tickets to go into this hamper. And if it all goes well and there's lots of stuff coming in and lots of people sort of adding to this by subscriptions or bit cheers or other bits and pieces, then we add more and more and more. Then we start adding a second hamper, which I think we're going to have a second LARP hamper, which will actually have LARP equipment in it and stuff like that. So that's our goal.
Everyone loves daggers.
Everyone loves daggers. I've actually been thinking of this particular way to do it. I don't know if I'll do it yet because I've overcomplicated it, probably. It's kind of like a D&D leveling system when it comes to how we introduce the milestones. So you've gained level 2, which is this milestone and whatnot, and at a certain milestone, then you go, let's pick another character. And the idea is that when you pick the next character, it's like picking the second hamper that will now be 2 hampers.
That's cool.
Yeah. Now the second character gets picked will be this is not official yet because I haven't discussed it with the rest of my people. But the character that gets picked dictates the actual prizes that come out in the next set of things. So we could, because I've already gone through a couple. Like it could be the LARP, the LARP rogue is what I've called it.
Yep.
So it's like milestones of getting Calamacial daggers, getting custom leather belts and sheaths for all of the Calamacial weapons that get chucked in.
Yep.
Eventually, as you go into levels, we're going to chuck in arrows and bows, all that type of stuff. I mean, because the way it works, it works. You help us, we get money into the system, you get something out of it, we put it into a raffle. Bob's your uncle, you might suddenly get a kid out of it. We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
But we'll have more details as we go forward. It is mostly for a D&D channel, but we'll also do it through this particular channel as well. It will start off with D&D prizes to start off with. But yeah, come support us, subscribe to our channel, give us bit cheers, and come just watch us and have some fun. That's really all I care about. And I also like to say that when I say goodbye to everyone, I've now got to go over to the computer because I'm doing this by myself and actually switch it over. So thank you for coming on.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And hopefully everyone will get all the information they need for Ballarat, and hopefully we have 200 tickets sold.
That would be great.
Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to go now.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, James. Don't mind me.
Don't mind me. I'm just here.
Good night.
Good night.